Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. So I want to talk about Inaros, okay? Inaros is my favorite Warframe, but I recognize his ability kit is pretty lackluster and it needs some upgrades because the reality of it is, due to the increasing enemy level, his kit is just becoming more and more less viable. So, before we even go into the abilities, let's cover how a Warframe should be designed in concept first. And I cover that in this thread that I created here. This is the Inaros Rework to root for. You see it here. Boom. And you see the URL. Feel free to swing by and take a look at that at your leisure. And this right here, the post on this timestamp, is the one we're going to be referring to in regards to the proposal. But in regards to design, let's start here. So, a lot of people recently in the community have tried to come up with various ideas for Inaros, but every time, maybe not every time, but a lot of times, they fail to really take into account what Inaros is, and they fail to adhere to his theme and his intended design. And that's a big deal. Like, they keep trying to turn him into a damage dealer, but that's not Inaros. And this is a very big deal because in this video here, this Brozine video, talking with D.E. Pablo, Warframe and Philosophy, at these timestamps, D.E. Pablo is specifically talking about Inaros, and he's pointing out that he has seen and heard the feedback from the fans about what to do with Inaros, at least from the past, and what has been proposed by some of these individuals is not gonna fly, because that's not what Inaros is. He is a tank. He's not a damage dealer. So we got to keep that in mind right off the get-go as we go through the concept design. Now, to help us and guide us during the concept design, I created a model. And in this model, there are 7 categories: survivability, damage, team healing, crowd control, team buff, debuff, and team utility. So, each category has 4 levels of mastery, and you'll see them here. Like, this is survivability and 4 levels. Everyone starts by default at level 0 in all categories. And there are also opposing categories for most of the categories. And you can't be level 3 in 2 opposing categories. That's not going to fly. Because again, that would be contrary to what the devs were just talking about in regards to balance. You can't just be an awesome tank who never dies and also be someone who can nuke everything in sight. That's an issue. That's an issue. You got to balance it out. Otherwise, you just have a broken game, and it takes away from the uniqueness of every other Warframe. And at the end of the day, you'll just even question, why even play another Warframe when I could just play this one busted guy? So we don't need to put any Warframe in a situation like that where they're just busted and OP. Now, in this model, you get 7 points, and the 7 points they will be divided up among the 7 categories. I am proposing that Inaros is a level 3 survivability, so level 3, and that means now, since he starts off at level 0, he's going up to 3. That was 3 points he had to use. He has 4 remaining, and he can divvy them up as he deems fit among the other categories. Based on the design and how I see Inaros functioning currently, I believe he is supposed to be a level 1 in team healing and a level 3 in crowd control as well. So, now that we've got that under understanding, level 3 survivability, level 1 team healing, level 3 CC, let's actually talk about his abilities. And I'm going to go down to the proposal now. And this is just a couple posts lower, still on October 20th. And this is it. It starts around here, the passives. Okay. Let's cover his first passive, his current passive, the sarcophagus. I pointed out before that some of his abilities just really haven't aged well, and this is a perfect example. Come on. Ah! Kill me. Kill me. There we go. Alright. So I'm just sucking them up. You guys know how this works. If I kill one, I come back to life. But again, Inaros is not intended to be a damage-dealing Warframe. Even if you were to mod for him to have high damage, higher damage, it's not going to work. And this is, you're thinking, oh, that's a level 135 enemy. A level 135 enemy is now a commonly seen enemy. Higher than Swordy level is common nowadays. You'll see that in the Angels of Zariman missions, and you'll see that in the Archon hunts. And you better believe there's more content coming, and the enemy level's just going to keep increasing. So, as you just saw, if it doesn't work in Swordy level, there's no way it's going to be able to keep up in any of the newer stuff either. So, I'm sorry, it's just not viable. To even try and buff that damage would be against his design. So the move has to go. Alright, now let's switch back. Alright, so now that we've shown the weaknesses of the current passive, let's go over the proposed passive. And there's two here, but truthfully, you could argue passive 1 is a design decision, and not even necessarily a passive, but whatever. Either or. Passive 1. Inaros uses health as the currency to utilize abilities, and every 2,500 health will become a new health bar. Inaros cannot go below 1 health by activating abilities. Inaros becomes invulnerable for 1.3 seconds each time a health bar is depleted, except for the final health bar prior to death. Inaros must refill a health bar to max after it is depleted in order to trigger the invulnerability effect again for that respective health bar. None of Inaros' ability will cost health per second, or else they will conflict with passive 2. So let's go over this again. Number 1, from now on, Inaros doesn't use energy, he uses health to activate abilities. He can't kill himself by activating abilities, and he gets health gating. Every other Warframe in the game has health gating or shield gating. There is no reason he should not have health gating, considering everyone else has a similar mechanic. He's the only one getting one-shotted, and he's supposed to be a level 3 survivability. That's not gonna cut it then. Alright. And remember this. None of his abilities will cost health per second, or else they will conflict with passive 2. That's a big deal. And passive 2. Inaros' abilities can overheal his max health by 2,500 health without mods. Once the overheal health bars are activated, then Inaros doubles his total armor value without mods. Only enemy damage can lower health bars. So what has happened here is he has overheal, and his current ability 4, Scarab Armor, has been rolled into passive 2. Because ability 4, the ability 4 slot, is supposed to be your ultimate move, and I'm sorry, his ability 4 is not an ultimate move. It's just not. Scarab Armor has a degree of functionality. It's not useless, but it's not ability 4 worthy, so that's why we've just rolled it in here. And most of his abilities have actually been retained, and they've just been improved drastically. The only one that was removed was the sarcophagus. So I just want to go ahead and preface with all that. Alright, ability... Oh, and kudos to the rest of the community for helping me to actually come up with all this. Because I did come up with probably the majority of this, but I did get some help, a decent amount of help from the community and some friends and things like that too. So thank you everyone for just the feedback and whatnot to refine this. Alright, let's cover ability 1. You guys know it. It's his best ability as of this moment. Desiccation, aka Pocket Sand. You throw sand in their face and they get staggered. I know the game calls it a blind, but it's a stagger. Anyways, so you stagger these guys, and then it opens them up to finishers, and that's solid. I have no grievances with this ability whatsoever. I'm just proposing a buff. So when you heal up to max from a finisher on ability 1, now you can overheal for 100, and if you use this inside of ability 4, then Inaros gets double range, an extra 10-second duration, and he will blind/stagger enemies behind surfaces or with their back to Inaros as well. So you're going to see this common thread here, essentially, or this train of thought. Ability 4 is going to empower all the abilities, so each ability 1, 2, and 3 will all be empowered when used in conjunction with ability 4. Just keep that in mind. And so I don't think anyone's really going to push back on what's going on with ability 1 here. It's solid. Just a little buff. Little buff, little synergy. Nothing wrong with that. Augment mod. Okay. This is truly the only way. If you've seen his current augment mod for ability 1, you know that when he kills an enemy with a finisher, there's a 100% chance it will spawn a sand minion. That is the only true and viable way that you will see minions from Inaros in the current level gameplay, above sortie level and whatnot. Otherwise, it's just a joke. You're lying. It's a gimmick, okay? Ability 2's minions, as of this moment, don't exist anymore. They don't exist in the current level gameplay. I'm sorry. I didn't take it out of the game, so if you say, oh, you're changing the ability, you're changing it up, you're taking things out. No, I'm not. It's not in the game anymore as is. You will never see those minions in current level gameplay. Now, with that being said, let's go over ability 2. His current ability 2, Devour. He just hooks someone, he pulls them in, goes invincible, and he heals, he CCs them, and he sucks the life out of them. Now, you're probably thinking, oh man, that's a lot of damage. No, remember, I've been doing damage to these guys for a little while, and this is probably like my 3rd or 4th take of the video, too, so keep that in mind. But I mean, as you see, I've been holding it and talking, and I can hold this for probably 30 seconds, and this guy still will not be even at half health. And again, this is current level gameplay of enemies, or current enemy level in the latest gameplay. So, I'm sorry. As you can see, the minions just don't exist. This is not feasible. No one is going to sit here and do this just to make a sand minion. You want sand minions? Go use the augment on ability 1. Now, when you use Devour 2, it's supposed to, there. You can activate this, and it'll heal you or to heal your allies, and also, but, I mean, nobody ever uses that either. It's just, because, again, you don't use Devour. There's just no reason to use Devour. Alright, but, so let's go over the proposal. Oh, hold on. Let me show you something else. Not just me being mean, but look at this. So you might make the case, I'm invincible, I'm invulnerable, I'm healing. It doesn't matter. Look around you. Look at the horizon. Look at all these people here with their weapons trained on you, and they're just going to unload as soon as you're done. You're done with your invincibility. It's going to happen. So you're not actually out of danger. And therefore, I would say that this invincibility it's not really as effective as you think you are. I think it's just delaying the inevitable. Alright. So let me go back to the plat. proposed ability 2. Now, like I said, I've actually kept the core of Devour, I would say. I've just made it more viable. And I'm calling it Dune now instead. So let's go over this. It's going to cost 250 health. Remember, no abilities should ever cost health per second with this Inaro build or this proposal, because if you did that, you would completely destroy and counter passive 2, and you would make it to where you have conflicting design concepts. You would never be able to activate his Scarab Armor passive 2 if you are draining your health constantly, because he has to be at max health in order to overheal and make it to those over health bars. Alright, now that we've covered that though, activated where Inaros aims it. The range and duration of this move scales with mods. This is a 10-meter rotating whirlpool quicksand trap that lasts for a 15-second duration. Mechanic 1. All enemies who enter the whirlpool automatically sink into quicksand, causing them to flail and panic and therefore disabling any other actions by them. Similar to Devour. So the CC effect that happens to them, where they're just on the ground, sinking and kicking and screaming, same thing's going to happen. Instead of it just being one enemy though, now it's all enemies who are within the whirlpool. That is way better. Enemies in the whirlpool are slowly pulled to the center of the whirlpool as well. Once enemies enter the whirlpool, then they cannot escape it unless the ability ends. Enemies are vulnerable to player damage while under the effects of this ability. So you CC them, you group them, they can't run away, and you can do damage. That is way better. Just that one mechanic. Let's keep going. Enemies are lured into the whirlpool because of a bright light at the center. The bright light is actually a giant glowing scarab sitting at the center of the whirlpool. If Inaros is actively using ability 3, then the glowing scarab will become surrounded by a sand tornado that lures enemies into the whirlpool faster. So mechanic 2 is just luring people into the whirlpool. You're not going to pull them in with the little string hook that he had before. They will just march to the bright light, which is the glowing scarab, kind of like moths to a flame. And it has synergy with ability 3. That mechanic does. When the tornado starts going in ability 3, then the lure speed of the enemies increases. So that's cool. Kudos to members of the community for giving that idea. Mechanic 3. The glowing scarab constantly leeches a capped 2.5 health per second from up to 4 enemies in the dune. That leeched health heals the whole allied team for 2.5 health per second while ability 2 is active. But Inaros can also overheal from it. So the healing is still there, but now the whole team gets it. And you can overheal from it. Mechanic 4. If Dune is used inside of an active ability 4, then Dune is empowered. Remember what I said, ability 4 empowers all other abilities. Dune will automatically be placed at the center of ability 3. So the lure effect will draw them into the center of ability 4. And that's a big deal, and you'll understand why once we actually cover the details of ability 4. The Golden Scarab can leech health from up to 8 enemies from any location in the sandstorm. Now that's cool. Augment mod. Healing becomes independent of leeched enemies. Allies in Dune's whirlpool will receive a capped 15 health per second while the ability is active. So you don't have to worry about trying to lure 4 enemies into the whirlpool. Nope, just activate Dune, and once it's activated, you start getting 15 health per second, you and all your allies. And if Dune is empowered because it's in ability 4, you guys start getting 25 health per second. So, I feel like that meets his level 1 team healing sufficiently without breaking him and making him too strong of a healer or anything like that. It's just a little different take for him, but there we go. Nice little touch. Ability 3. Let's cover his ability 3 right now. Sandstorm. Oops. That's the name of his current ability 3. What does it do? You turn into a tornado, a sand tornado, and you kind of swing enemies around in the air. They don't take much damage. You move very slow, and I mean, it doesn't really do anything. Your allies can't hit them because they're just being flailed around so fast. Unfortunately, it's not a good move. It looks really cool, but it's not good. It's not viable. It's just not. The only way this move would be of any sort of use right now is if you somehow timed it perfectly and you threw someone off the edge of a map with this ability. But most levels you can't just throw people off the edge of the map. So you cannot design an ability around that kind of a concept. And that's not going to be your argument that salvages this ability. So, I'm not getting rid of this ability. I am renaming it. It's now going to be called Force of Nature. And again, it's not going to cost energy per second. It's going to cost health, 375 health, one time. Alright, so he becomes a tornado. And instead of being invulnerable in Devour, now you're invulnerable in the tornado. Because that's another reason people don't use the tornado. You can die in that thing. It's happened to me more than once. And you're so slow. So you're an easy target. Let me just look at this. Let me show you. Start from here. I'm just going up to these pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was like 5 seconds. That was a long time. This is a short distance. And I probably started counting about a second late. So, I mean, the fact that you're moving that slow, you do no damage, I mean, you're just ragdolling people. No bueno. No good. This sand tornado is now invulnerable, so that takes away the issue with you getting shot down while you're in the sand tornado. The caveat, you don't do damage to enemies, but whatever, who cares? Inaros isn't supposed to be a damage frame, and it's not like his damage from this ability currently is the game-changing mechanic for him. So, it's okay. This is a way better trade-off. We're going to speed that sand tornado up too, because it's way too slow. 1.5 sprint speed, a capped 1.5 sprint speed. And enemies touched by the sand tornado faint from dehydration and fall for 15 seconds. That's way better. So now the sand tornado actually does something. It CCs them, and the CC is much better CC because they're not just being ragdolled around. Now they're just falling to the ground for 15 seconds without mods. And your teammates can come in and they can finish them off, or you can come in and you can finish them off and leave your sand tornado, whatever. But they are now in a much better position to take damage from your team. Mechanic 4. Inaros heals / overheals for 100 health for each enemy touched by the tornado. So you got a fast moving tornado, it makes you faint, and it heals you for 100 if you just touch the enemy. That's good. If this ability is used inside of ability 4, then Inaros heals / overheals for 250 for each enemy touched by the sand tornado. The sand tornado speed will increase to 2.0. That's sprint speed, of course, while in ability 4, and enemies faint and fall for an additional 5 seconds. And all of that is without mods. So, as you can see, this right here, still the same ability, I just changed the name and I made it better. The tweaks to the mechanics of the ability have made this now viable and effective and you can genuinely help your team, and it even gives you a degree of sustain. It helps you with a possible escape if need be, because your tornado makes you invulnerable. You're kind of fast. You can get out of danger if you need to. All of that is better as a get out of jail free card than the current Devour. So I don't want to hear one word about Devour. We took away the bad part of Devour, and I'm sorry, we made Devour better, and now we've made it to just where some of its stronger points are added into ability 3. So everything about Inaros still there, minus the sarcophagus. Augment mod, I don't even think you have to change the augment mod, but it might be worth removing the damage option because he's not supposed to do damage. So just something to think about. All right, now ability 4. We already went over it. Ability 4 currently, it is Scarab Swarm, but it creates his Scarab Armor. Scarab Armor is not bad. It's decent. It gives you a little more survivability, but that's really lackluster for an ability 4. That's not going to cut it. So, you've heard me reference ability 4 all throughout the other abilities, so now let's talk about it. Sandstorm. And that's why we changed the name of the Sand Tornado above the current ability 3. Because this is now going to be called Sandstorm, because it's much more appropriate. It's going to cost 500 health to activate. Inaros manipulates large quantities of rushing sand to protect his team and empowers his abilities. It's going to be a very large, multi-room range AoE type of dome that simulates a sandstorm. So it's going to be like Snow Globe, but sand. Inaros can move around freely in the dome, and the ability stays active in the location Inaros activated the ability for a fixed 30-second duration once cast. Range and duration scales with mods for this ability. Its main purpose is to induce the real dangers of a sandstorm against Inaros' enemies. The ability will activate and be centered on Inaros' location. Alright, Mechanic 1. The sandstorm should impair the enemy's vision. With the impaired vision, enemies inside and outside of the dome suffer a 70% accuracy reduction for enemy projectiles aimed at targets in the dome. The accuracy reduction can increase further depending on equipped mods with a cap of 90%. So what this is enemies are blinded by the sand. And I am talking about the traditional wording of the term blind, okay? If you were to go to a game like Guild Wars or Final Fantasy or probably WoW and some others, then you will see that a League of Legends is a perfect example, a blind just decreases the accuracy of the move. It doesn't stop an opponent from attacking you, it just decreases the likelihood of the attack landing because the accuracy went down, or it decreases the potency of the attack. That is a true blind. Again, like I pointed out before, his ability 1 as is, that's not a blind, that's a stagger. I understand from a lore perspective, you're saying, oh, the sand in the eyes is blinding him. That's true, but it's really a stagger. It's a stagger. Because he's not attacking at all. If you're blind, you can still attack, but when you're staggered, you can't attack. But let's keep going. So he's blinded. We got an accuracy reduction going on for all projectile attacks. For enemies inside or outside of the dome, if they're targeting something in the dome. All enemies inside of the sandstorm are blinded for the first 3 seconds of ability 3. Okay. I realized the flaw there. Okay. This is actually supposed to be staggered. Apologies for that, because I just explained that the difference between a blind and a stagger, but I forgot to make that change here. Sorry, guys. Stagger. Alright. All enemies inside of the sandstorm are staggered for the first 3 seconds of ability 3. Mechanic 3. The Sandstorm heals Inaros by 5 health/overhealth per second. Not to mention, of course, it empowers all of his other abilities. So, the Augment mod. Inaros taunts all enemies while he is in the Sandstorm. But this does not interfere with the lure effect of Dune. So enemies will attack Inaros even while marching towards the whirlpool. And that, I believe that kit that is proposed, you've kept basically everything in his current kit has been preserved except for the sarcophagus, and the rest of it has just been made better. It's just better, or it's been rolled into something else to be used more effectively. But it's all still there, just new and improved. So I really hope you guys like that. And you know, me and the other members of the community, my friends and I, we probably spent like somewhere between 30 to 40 hours coming up with all of this and refining it. So I really appreciate the help from everyone. Thank you. Kudos. I really do like this Warframe. I care about it, and I want to see this Warframe do well. So if you liked all of this, please comment on the thread, share the thread, talk to DE, send DE a message, tell them, hey, look at the proposal. You got to see this proposal, or look at the video. The video is an excellent idea too, because I did come up with several versions of the proposal, and I just showed you the final draft. So the other old drafts are in the thread still, and sometimes people get confused and they'll be reading the old draft, and it's just like, no, go to the latest draft. And again, I did point out the latest draft it's the first thing I say in this thread. I tell you where the latest draft is. So that's the timestamp again. Anyways, thanks for swinging by, everyone. And comment, like on the forum, and share the video, the whole 9 yards. Let's get the Sandman some help. Goodbye.